let's talk about civic engagement. It's one of those terms we hear thrown around all the time, right? But what does it really mean to be an engaged citizen? Well, it turns out the true meaning is a lot broader and frankly, more surprising than you might think. Let's break it down.
Just for a second, think about it. When you hear that phrase, civic engagement, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? Go on, lock it in. Let's see how close you are.
If you were thinking of things like voting or maybe volunteering at a food bank or even attending a protest, you're absolutely right. Those are all huge parts of it, for sure. But, and this is the cool part, that's just scratching the surface. The full story is so much bigger.
Okay, so let's get a foundational definition on the table to get us started. At its absolute core, civic engagement is about participation. It's any way that we take part in the life of our community with the goal of making things better for others or helping to shape where that community is headed. The key word there is active. It's something you do.
But that simple definition immediately brings up a really fascinating question. Is engagement about what you do as an individual, or is it about what we do all together as a collective? This is a really fundamental split in how people think about this whole thing.
So first up, you've got the individual perspective. This view pretty much frames civic engagement as a personal duty, a responsibility that comes with being a citizen. It's something you can and should do, even if you're doing it all by yourself.
But then, on the flip side, there's this really powerful counterargument. It says that true civic engagement isn't about individual behavior at all. It's about what the source material here calls intense joint activity. This view says that real power, real change, only comes from collaboration, from people working together.
So you can see the tension, right? Is engagement a personal duty, like donating to a cause you believe in? Or is it something that's inherently a shared activity, like organizing a community cleanup, that really only works when we all act together? Well, the answer is it's both. And that brings us to another key distinction.
This leads us to another really cool layer of nuance, because how we participate matters just as much as whether we do it alone or with others. And this is the crucial distinction between doing things for a community and doing things with a community.
Think of it this way. Service kind of implies doing for. It's about meeting immediate needs, like serving meals at a soup kitchen. Super important stuff. But civic, on the other hand, implies doing with. That's about working together on a public issue, like serving on a city board to address the root causes of why people are hungry in the first place. Both are vital, but they're two very different approaches.
Okay, so we've got these two big ideas now, individual versus collective, and doing for versus doing with. When you start to combine them, you realize that the spectrum of what actually counts as civic engagement is huge. I mean, it's way, way bigger than just voting.
So let's get concrete. What does this actually look like in the real world? The official list of indicators is surprisingly long, and I'm willing to bet that some of these are not what you'd expect.
All right, here's the first half of that list. You've got the classics, right? Regular volunteering, voting, fundraising. But it also includes things like being an active member of a local group, or even just trying to persuade others on an issue. And yep, according to this, even putting a political sticker on your car counts as engagement.
And the list just keeps going. You have more direct actions, like contacting officials or protesting. But I find this part totally fascinating. Boycotting, not buying something as a protest, and boycotting, which is deliberately buying something to show your support. It's a great reminder that your wallet can be a really powerful tool for civic action.
So we have this massive spectrum of actions. But what's the big deal? Why is all this so important? Well, it turns out the health of our communities, our towns, our cities, literally depends on it. The reason this all matters so urgently is because we're actually facing a crisis of disengagement. Research shows that for decades, participation in almost every single form of community life has been in a steady decline, and that has some really serious consequences for everybody.
This quote really gets to the heart of what's at stake here. It connects the word civic all the way back to its Latin root, civis, which is the root of city and citizen. It frames engagement as the very lifeblood of our shared public spaces, where we all get to speak and act together to shape our own future.
So when you strip it all away, that's what this is really about. Whether you act alone or in a group, whether you're serving food or serving on a board, it all comes down to human connection. It's about how we work together to improve our world and build the future we all want to live in.
Which brings us to the final question, and it's really for you. We've seen just how broad and how vital civic engagement is.
So in a world where it's so easy to just tune out and disengage, the question isn't just what engagement is, it's how will you choose to engage?